There are seasons in life when silence becomes heavier than noise. Not the silence around you, but the one that echoes inside of you. The kind where it feels like nothing responds anymore. You think positively, you visualize, you affirm, but deep down, it feels like your life is stuck, as if there's an invisible wall between what you feel and what you desire, as if you're trapped between effort and emptiness. And the more you try, the more exhausted you become. Maybe you know this place all too well. A place where hope has turned into silent exhaustion, where you quietly wonder if there's still time, if there's still something waiting for you on the other side of the chaos. And if that's you, then this isn't a video about manifestation. It's a reunion with what you already know, but have forgotten. You're not failing because you're not trying hard enough. You're failing because you're using the wrong tools. Manifesting is not about effort. Manifesting is about transmission, about frequency, about what your entire body is saying, even when your mind is denying it. The truth is, you don't create reality with thoughts alone. You project reality with what you feel, with what you subconsciously believe, with what your nervous system has learned to call safe. This is where science meets the soul. Neuroscientist Karl Pribram discovered that the brain is not just a storage unit for memories. It's a holographic projector. This means that what you perceive as reality isn't stored in one fixed place in your brain like a drawer. The reality you live is an interference of patterns, like a hologram. And the most profound part of this discovery is this: when you cut a piece of a hologram, the entire image still remains. The whole exists in every part. The same is true for your thoughts. A true thought, one that carries emotion, memory, intention, contains the entire pattern of your frequency. Every intention you have, even the smallest one, carries the full field of who you are. You don't manifest with words. You manifest with the invisible pattern those words carry. That's why positive thinking without feeling doesn't change anything. Because the universe, or rather the quantum field, doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you transmit. And when what you say is in conflict with what you feel, the field doesn't know what to do with that. It responds with static. Joe Dispenza shows us that when you align thought, emotion, and energy, your heart and brain enter coherence. And it's that coherence that creates an electromagnetic field powerful enough to alter the world around you. Not in a magical way, but in a measurable one. You're not blocked because you're weak. You're blocked because you're fragmented. You're sending out conflicting signals, vibrating doubt inside your desire, fear inside your intention, guilt inside your dream. And it's not your fault. It's just an old pattern no one ever taught you how to see. Maybe today you don't need another technique. Maybe what you truly need is this: a new understanding, a new perspective on how reality actually works, and how you can learn to use your brain, your story, and your energy, not just to wish for something, but to become the space where it happens. Because in the end, it's not about achieving, it's about remembering. And from this moment on, you're going to start remembering the silent conflict between desire and frequency. There is a hidden tension that lives inside most people. It's the space between what you consciously want and what your body still believes is true. You might say, "I want love," but flinch when someone gets too close. You might affirm, "I am abundant," while feeling your chest tighten when you check your bank account. You might dream of change while your nervous system rehearses the same old fears. This is not hypocrisy, it's dissonance. And this dissonance is the invisible wall between you and what you're trying to manifest. Because here's the unspoken truth. Your brain can set a goal, but your body only creates from safety. If your inner world still perceives your desire as dangerous, unfamiliar, or too good to be true, it will sabotage it without you even noticing. Many people unknowingly become addicted to the ache of longing. It's not that they don't want to receive, it's that receiving feels unsafe, intimacy feels threatening, peace feels unfamiliar. So the body does what it's trained to do. It protects you from what you think you want. The mind imagines, but the body remembers. And when the memories stored in your nervous system are woven with disappointment, rejection, abandonment, or scarcity, then, no matter how beautifully you visualize, you'll still emit the same signal of fear and lack. Neural circuits that have been wired in survival can't simultaneously create from expansion. And this is where most people get stuck. Not because they're not manifesting right, but because they're trying to create a new future while living in the emotional signature of the past. It's like trying to tune into a symphony using a broken antenna. The melody exists, the frequency is there, but if your inner signal is scrambled, distorted by doubt, shame, or trauma, then what reaches you is static, confusion, stagnation. You think the universe isn't responding, but in truth, it's responding perfectly. To the frequency you're unconsciously transmitting, there's nothing wrong with your desire. But desire alone isn't enough. The question is, does your body believe it's safe to have what you want? If not, it will unconsciously sabotage every attempt to receive. This is the first layer of mastery, not controlling the world outside you, but realigning the world within, where desire and frequency no longer fight each other, but finally speak the same language. And when that happens, manifestation is no longer a performance. It becomes the most natural thing in the world. The illusion of control, why your manifestation isn't responding. There's a quiet desperation that hides beneath the surface of many spiritual practices. It's the urge to control disguised as devotion, the need to make things happen wrapped in the language of discipline. You repeat your affirmations, you visualize the outcome, you follow every ritual, but beneath it all lives a subtle fear, a fear that if you stop doing, everything will fall apart. But manifestation doesn't respond to fear dressed as effort. It responds to coherence. And here's the paradox. The more you chase an outcome, the more you reinforce its absence. Every time you act from urgency, from need, from "I must make this happen," you are telling the quantum field and your own subconscious that it is not yet real, that it is still far, that it still belongs to a version of you that hasn't arrived. Karl Pribram's work helps us see why. Your brain doesn't simply react to the world, it projects it based on patterns, like a hologram. And when the pattern you repeat is rooted in striving, in grasping, in force, then what you see is a life that reflects exactly that. More striving, more grasping, more trying. Trying harder doesn't fix the distortion. It reinforces the signal of lack. This is the holographic misfire. You think you're taking spiritual action, but your emotional state is encoding a pattern of absence, not abundance. And this is why so many people feel exhausted, not because they don't believe enough, but because they're unknowingly broadcasting contradiction, saying "I trust" while vibrating panic, saying "I surrender" while clinging to control. The shift begins when you ask a different question, not "how do I get what I want," but "how do I remember that I already hold the frequency of what I desire?" Because the truth is, your desired future doesn't arrive when you control everything perfectly. It arrives when you become the version of yourself who no longer needs to force anything, where intention replaces tension, where presence replaces pressure, and where you finally stop performing and start resonating. That is when the quantum field begins to respond, not because you begged it to, but because you stopped arguing with your own signal. Why memory is the secret language of the quantum field. We've been told that imagination is the key to creation, but the truth is far more subtle and far more powerful. You don't manifest what you imagine. You manifest what your body remembers, not consciously, but energetically, not logically, but emotionally. You manifest from the memories your nervous system replays like background music, even when your mind is trying to sing a different tune. According to Karl Pribram's revolutionary work, memory is not stored like a file in a drawer. It's not locked inside a specific neuron waiting to be retrieved. It exists in frequency. It is accessed through resonance, meaning you don't remember something, you re-enter its vibrational pattern. This changes everything. Because it means that what you call now may actually be a memory playing itself out again and again, not because you want it, but because your inner frequency keeps tuning back into that same emotional broadcast. This is why trauma repeats. Not because you are broken, but because your energetic field is still echoing the emotional resonance of a moment your body never fully released. It's why you keep finding the same type of relationship, the same financial ceiling, the same emotional disconnection. Not because you're cursed, but because your inner projector keeps playing the same film reel and calling it reality. So when you try to create a new life from imagination alone, it often doesn't work, because the vibration of the body is stronger than the vision of the mind. But there is a way through. Instead of trying to escape the past, you begin to rewire the emotional tone of your memory field. This is not pretending something didn't happen. This is choosing to create new emotional anchors in the present that begin to override the old frequency of pain. You start to remember your desired future as if it were a long-lost memory, a familiar place you're finally returning to. You don't need to force belief. You just need to feel what it's like to belong to that timeline. Again and again, gently, repetitively, intentionally. And as you do, the hologram begins to shift. Because your body no longer broadcasts the past, it begins to transmit a memory it never had before, but now believes is real. The myth of visualization without coherence. We've been taught to visualize, to close our eyes, picture the dream, feel the moment, and wait for it to come. But for many, visualization becomes just another silent disappointment, a beautiful image that never turns into experience. Why? Because visualization on its own is not enough. If there is no coherence between what you see in your mind and what you feel in your body, the image remains hollow, like a photograph without soul, a ritual without electricity. It's like trying to light a fire without heat. Technically correct, biologically ineffective. And here is where most people get lost. They imagine the dream, but their heart is still closed. They repeat the vision, but their emotional field is broadcasting fear, doubt, or detachment. And the quantum field doesn't respond to the picture. It responds to the pattern, the signal, the coherence between thought and feeling. The heart, scientifically speaking, emits an electromagnetic field up to 60 times more powerful than the brain. So if you visualize abundance but still feel scarcity, your body wins. If you visualize love but still feel unworthy, your frequency doesn't lie. Neville Goddard didn't just say, think of your desire. He said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not act as if, not pretend, but embody. To assume the feeling is to let the chemistry of fulfillment touch your cells now, before the evidence arrives. To invite your body to feel what your mind already knows. This is not about manipulating the universe. This is about remembering how creation works. You don't attract what you picture. You attract what you become. And to become is to feel. So the next time you find yourself visualizing, don't chase the image. Sink into the mood. Let your body carry the memory of what it's like to live that reality, not in the future, but in the sacred now. Because when the body believes, the field responds, not out of magic, but out of resonance. The energetic mirror, life doesn't respond to thought, but to identity. There's something profoundly painful about wanting a new life and not being able to reach it. Not because you haven't tried, but because something invisible keeps pulling you back into the same loop. This loop is not laziness, it's not lack of intelligence, it's identity. You don't attract what you want. You attract what your nervous system believes is safe to experience. And this belief of what's safe, familiar, or allowed lives far below your conscious intentions. It lives in the blueprint of your identity, shaped by years of emotional imprinting, silent moments of rejection, tiny fragments of pain that taught your body what to expect from life. You might say, "I am ready for abundance." But if your subconscious still equates abundance with responsibility, pressure, or exposure, it will resist it. You might affirm, "I deserve love." But if your nervous system has stored love as abandonment or betrayal, it will sabotage every connection that gets too close. Because identity doesn't care what you want. It cares what you survived, and it will choose safety over expansion every single time. According to Karl Pribram, if the brain is a holographic processor, then your identity acts as the lens through which the hologram is projected. Change the lens, and every frame of your reality begins to shift, not all at once, not overnight, but gradually, rhythmically, like light reshaping itself through a different glass. This is why affirmations often fail, not because they are wrong, but because they are too shallow to reach the projector. You cannot override identity with surface thought. You must meet it in the body, in the felt sense, in the emotional field where the belief was first encoded. There's a story. A woman who spent years visualizing wealth, repeating mantras, studying manifestation. But nothing changed. Until one day, she uncovered the root belief quietly shaping everything. I am a burden. And as long as that belief lived in her field, abundance felt unsafe. Receiving felt wrong. Prosperity felt like guilt. Only when she met that belief with compassion, only when she allowed her nervous system to experience safety in receiving, did things begin to shift. Because she stopped projecting scarcity, not just mentally, but vibrationally. This is the mirror of life. It doesn't reflect what you say, it reflects what you are. And when you change the lens, reality starts to change its shape, from seeking to encoding, becoming the frequency of mastery. What if it was never about trying harder, never about forcing, fixing, or striving to become something you're not? What if the secret wasn't to chase the life you want, but to remember the version of you that already lives it, in the quantum field, in the emotional blueprint, in the signal your body was always meant to emit? You're not here to push. You're here to resonate, to tune your internal field into coherence so consistently, so deeply, that the outer world has no choice but to respond. Karl Pribram taught us that the brain does not merely perceive reality, it shapes it. It's not a mirror, it's a projector, and that projector runs on emotion, frequency, and belief, which means every feeling you allow to repeat becomes part of the code. Every thought saturated with feeling becomes architecture. Every memory you emotionally relive becomes construction. So mastery isn't about performance. It's about repetition of coherence. It's about training your nervous system to live in alignment with the frequency of what you say you desire. And this is where ancient wisdom returns, not as mysticism, but as emotional physics. Greg Braden spoke of this beautifully. Real prayer is not about asking, it's about remembering, not asking for healing, but remembering the frequency of wholeness, not begging for love, but remembering the vibration of being deeply connected, not chasing abundance, but remembering how it feels to live in trust, in flow, in enoughness. Because in the quantum field, time is not linear. Possibilities are not distant. They are waiting, not for you to become worthy, but for you to give them emotional permission. So imagine this. Your life is a film reel. Every version of your future already exists. Love, purpose, joy, expansion, healing. Each scene is real, each one complete. But the lens, the projector, the mechanism that decides what plays on the screen is inside you. It is you. So now the question isn't, what do I want? the question is softer, more honest, more powerful. Am I finally willing to stop replaying the same scene? Am I ready to change the lens?